Guys, bringing up the next topic. How is it that Hollywood today is spending their money, right? So the question is, do you think that they're over budgeting these movies? And because of that, we're expecting movies to hit the $1 billion mark in order for them to, you know, make some money at the theaters?
I think it. So like 2023, I think we've seen it, like the issue come to a head where a lot of well-known names, a lot of well-known movie series with traditionally high budgets have just been, underperforming to legit bombing at the box office. You mentioned the Marvels. We saw it with Quantumania with Marvel Studios. Other movies like Fast X, Indiana Jones, like all of those movies underperformed. Actually, I don't know. I think Fast X might have done decently, but people still think it's, people think that the critical reception is never great for the Fast movies, but people still go out to watch them anyway.
Right.
Regardless.
Right. But for example, right, since you brought up Fast X had a budget of, I think, $340 million.
Not surprising.
Right. $340 million for one movie, and yet it only made like $700 million at the box office.
Only made.
Right, only made. But the point is that they spent so much money, they needed to make close to $1 billion in order for them to, quote unquote, break even, right?
So they probably expected that $1 billion mark and underperform, and they're
right. For them, it underperformed because it didn't hit $1 billion. They didn't make 3 times their money or anything to that extent. So the question is, like, look, I'll give you guys an example, right? A great movie that came out 4 years ago in 2020 was Invisible Man. Right. So Invisible Man was budgeted at $7 million. You guys know what it made at the box office?
Please tell us, Spade.
$145 million. Now that is pure profit because it made its money 10 times over, right? Mm-hmm. And we're not factoring in marketing costs because that's a totally different budget. So another example, Megan had a budget of $12 million and it made $181 million. Let's do something more recent. I don't know. We saw a movie last year called Exorcist Believer. And guess what?
We hated that movie.
We hated that movie, but listen, the budget was $30 million and it made $137 million. Even let's just say that they made a marketing budget of $50 million for that movie, which I doubt it because they didn't make that much. They didn't spend that much on that marketing. But that would have made it at what? $80 million in total. It made 137. It made its money back and then some. Right? How about a great movie that I know me and Johnny 64 love? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Right? Had a estimated budget between $14 to $25 million, and it made $144 million.
I'm surprised the budget was that low for it because I felt like there was like a lot of effects and costume design going on.
Exactly.
And everything.
Here's another one that's going to blow your mind. The Whale. The Whale was budgeted at $3 million. And guess what? It's the only movie that I have on this list that made less than $100 million, but it made $58 million. But again, a $3 million budget making $58 million
right
still made 10 times its money.
Well, that movie was solely based on the emotional performance of Brendan Fraser, and it was like his big comeback to Hollywood. So that generated that huge number that you just said.
Right, but it still made its money, right?
The
story was great. And guess what? It was nominated for how many awards?
He won Best Oscar.
So realistically, what does that tell us? What do we learn from this? It's all about the storyline, right?
Ultimately, good storytelling, right? The best cream rises, butchering the
cream
saying.
Of the crop?
Cream of the crop, yes.
Right. So what is that? So we know that, what is it? Like the screenwriters need to make a better movie.
I think it's just like how like they're like how they allocate the budget. It's like, maybe like you have to have $200 million to make this movie, but maybe a bigger portion of it should be going towards, maybe the casting or the people who are hiring the writers and like the writers themselves, like the quality that they put out, all that stuff. I think more needs to be put into that rather than just movies with crazy effects and CGI and things like that. Because I think that was a common thread in a lot of the 2023 flops that we saw is just a lot of spectacle, a lot of like movies that seem to be like anchoring itself like, oh, like we're Marvel, of course it's going to do well, like, or it's Indiana Jones, it's a classic name, of course it's going to do well, but then they don't, and then you got big name studios like Warner Brothers and Disney scratching their heads saying, how could this have possibly happened? You just,
where did we go wrong?
Like, was it the pandemic? Like, people just don't want to go out to the theaters anymore? No, people, like, as we saw with, like, Oppenheimer and Barbie, like, Barbenheimer, like, people are more than willing to go back to the theater if they have a good reason to go there. Like, if it's a great movie and people are talking about it and there's buzz around it and it's getting all these great reviews and it's, and you watch it and it actually lives up to the expectations, it's going to get all the money that it deserves. But, like, in the case of The Flash, I'll give you some numbers myself right now. I famously hate the Flash just because of all the horrible multiverse shit that it threw at us.
CGI too.
But it had a budget of like around $200 million, and it only brought back worldwide $266 million.
Holy shit!
Right.
So and that was like the big send off for Warner Brothers for the DCEU. And what did they get for it? Nothing. Just like everything else in the DCU.
They literally got nothing. But see, that's the thing, though. That's where, that's where the idea came from.
And that movie had George Clooney in it.
Look, again, it brings up the fact that you have all this money allocated to a movie, but does it need all that money? Like The Flash, you said how much was it?
It's like $200 million to make.
$200 million to make. But people as us who saw the movie, we're still wondering, where in God's green earth was that money spent? Because the visuals, for lack of a better term, were garbage, right?
Yeah.
They weren't that great. It was very choppy. The CGI was horrible. So where was that money spent? On reshoots?
Here's a better example. Something more recent that we watched, Argylle.
Okay.
Oh boy.
A big Apple film, right? Apple has all the money in the world. They don't care what they put into it, and clearly that was the case because that was another $200 million movie, and worldwide it only made $92 million.
Gee.
Not even half. So, and the thing with that is that it wasn't even supposed to be $200 million. Apple, like, it was supposed to be, it was like the hard production cost was $90 million. Apple put in like whatever amount of money it did to get the rights to distribute, the movie, like underneath the Apple TV Plus name or whatever, and then that ballooned it to $200 million, and then it only even if that wasn't the case, it only made $92 million worldwide anyway.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah. So, but like, what was the problem with that movie? It just was horribly written. It was a mess, And on top of that, like the marketing, I thought was shit for it. I feel like not that many people knew about it, and the people who did know about it thought like it was going to be like starring Henry Cavill and all that stuff. And we have a whole review about why it sucked, but it's just like these studios I think they just got so big headed with like the numbers they used to make with these well-known names. And they're like, we're just going to pour all of our money into like Marvel and pour all of our money into these characters that everybody knows and loves for decades. And we can do whatever we want. And the movie can be as bad as it needs, but people are still going to show up for it. And then they don't. And then it's like, what did you expect to happen?
That's insulting the intelligence of the audience. But speaking of big names that actually did well, but had a low budget and did really well at the box office, Godzilla -1. We raved about it back in December. That's
like the poster child
yeah.
for this discussion.
I don't know if it was special circumstances since the Japanese audience, but it captivated here in the States as well. But I think that's the ultimate prime example of what you're trying to say, Spade, with the budget and investing in the storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys saw Godzilla -1. I have not yet, which I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. But the point is, that movie was made $15 million, $17 million, something to that extent.
Yeah.
It's made over $100 million. So you can have a great visually and screen written movie, and you don't need to spend that much money.
Yeah.
Talk to Blumhouse. Blumhouse could literally go into his couch, right? Stick his hand in there. Whatever change comes out, he can make a great movie out of it. I don't know how he does it. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Freddy.
Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Another Blumhouse production, right?
Right.
It cost $20 million to make that movie, and they made I think it made almost $300 million.
All the kiddies came out to watch that movie. All the
And
the FNAF kids.
But see, that's the thing, though. It also was a day-and-day release, right? You could have stayed at home and watched it, or went to the theaters and watched it. And what happened? People came out in droves to go see it in the theaters.
Yeah.
I understand it's a franchise that had a loyal following.
Co-following with the video game franchise.
Right. But at the same time, though, if it was a shitty-ass movie, well, nobody would have went and saw it.
Yeah.
You know, people who did not know of the franchise went and saw it and said, okay, it's not the greatest movie ever, but I enjoyed watching it, right? So these things can be done. I just think that Hollywood is just like, you know what? Just make it rain, throw money. We need a movie? How much do you need to make this movie? And just, okay, cool, do it.
You know, but between that and like how much they missed the mark on like how they thought streaming services were going to be like the new norm for, you know, like making money off of movies. You know, they got spoiled by the pandemic, and then once the pandemic stopped being a thing as much, like they really like fell on their asses with, you know, like the numbers that came after that, because people stopped streaming as much, and then once again they're just like left like scratching their heads like, how could this have possibly like they really are. It really is a testament to like how out of touch these executives can be. Like if you hear them talk sometimes, like they like the quote that I was reading before, and like when we were talking about Bob Iger, like there was a quote from that same article. Like basically, like they said, like one of the studio execs, you know, that they were talking about like how these budgets are like not adding up to like what the returns are, and it's just like, you know, like we've been and the guys were saying like we've been completely blindsided by you know, the audience, that like it must be like this consumer behavior or whatever, and it's like, no, it's not that. People just want to see good movies, and you're just not making good movies. This is not art. This is no longer something that's like there's no passion behind it anymore. You're making products, and then, you know, when you try to put them on a conveyor belt and ship them out,
Cookie cutter.
they're all cookie cutter.
Yep.
Yeah. You know,
you nailed it, Pancakes. Cookie cutter. That's what it is.
exactly.
And it's like copy paste. Here we go. Here's another movie. Dude, that movie seems similarly familiar to another movie that came out a year ago. Like, why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So, everyone, what do you guys think? Let us know. Do you think that Hollywood is just absurdly just throwing money out into the wild and saying, hey, let's make a movie. Let's see how good we could do this? Or do you think that they're justified by spending that much money? Let us know in the comment section down below.